Rob, there seems to be quite a field here today.
Yeah, there sure is. There's about 65 of the most high-technology race cars ever assembled for a race in this country. They're going to be getting ready pretty soon. Here are some of the more significant cars and drivers for today's race.
On the pole, it'll be John Paul Jr., along with his father, John Paul, in car number 8, a light blue turbocharged Porsche.
Hello and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
We are back. Yay!
Yay, we're back. I am James Petrogallo here with my co-host.
I am Jimmy Wisman.
Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. We're pumped for this week's episode.
Shit, yeah.
This has been this is the craziest thing we've covered, I think, from top to bottom, from beginning to end. But we've had nothing like this, because there is nothing like this. And I started unraveling the story, and I'm like, what? Oh, that's interesting. No, not what? Get the fuck. It kept going and going to where it's like, okay, this is the craziest story ever. And we are fully down a rabbit hole. This is a man we've never covered before. In so many different ways. It's the weirdest, crazy. This is a guy who had to do what he did the least. The least.
Really?
He didn't even have to do sports, this guy.
Really?
That's the thing. We're very little sports this week. All crime. Wall-to-wall crime. We don't have time for much sports this week.
So he had his life all together.
Before he ever had an inkling of sport to him. He had his life, or crime for that matter. He had his life together like very, very, very few of us in this world do. Let's get into this fella here. It's a guy by the name of Hans Johann Paul. That is his birth name.
Okay.
That is not what he's known as.
Okay.
This is John Paul Sr.
John Paul changed his name.
He changed his name. He's from the Netherlands.
Okay.
So he's born Hans Johann Paul in the Netherlands, December 3rd, 1939.
Two in a row that changed their names.
Two in a row to change their name. Totally different reasons here. This is not to get a runaway from a family or anything like that. This is, and he keeps his last name at least. This is just to acclimate, and we'll get to why.
John Paul, what's the last name?
John Paul Sr. This is John. His original last name is Paul also. It's Hans Johann Paul.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's the same thing basically.
Right.
But it's funny what he changes his name to in the era he does it. That's what's amusing. He talks about later on how bad Holland was growing up for him. Because he's born in 1939.
Yeah.
So he grew up during World War II. Not a good time for Holland.
Right.
See Diary of Anne Frank. Not a good time for Holland, basically.
This is prior to weed being legal there.
Yeah, this is not, red light district,
Right.
blowjobs on every corner.
Tourism booming for the red light district and weed cafes.
No. This is scrounging off, picking food scraps off the ground.
Stealing from an apple cart.
That an American soldier left behind as they, barreled through in their tank.
Awesome.
Basically said the war had completely destroyed the country.
I can imagine.
Obviously. They had very little food. He would talk about picking up U.S. soldiers' cigarette butts off the ground.
Ew.
Because they were American cigarettes, and that was a big deal. And we have a...
That's disgusting.
Yeah, he would to get food. He would collect the cigarettes that the GIs threw away, because they throw away like half cigarettes, as we're going to hear from him in a second. And then he would take them to the bootleggers, who would steal all the supplies and all the food, and he would trade them half American cigarette.
He'd trade a reburn.
He'd trade a handful of butts for a scrap of bread or something.
Gross.
So this guy's childhood. He had it rough. Let's do it.
Trading cigarette butts that are flicked from soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
That go from port to port, banging whore after whore after whore.
40s VD like nobody's business. Just whatever they had back then.
I'll give you a VD-filled cigarette.
Big band VD.
For a day-old loaf of bread.
And it burned. This is no good. Here's an in their own words on the cigarette thing here and the whole deal. In their own words, quote, "If you don't smoke, you wouldn't know what I mean. But heck, those GIs didn't think anything about a half-finished cigarette. People in this country in those days did." So he's saying shit was rough, man.
Yeah.
They didn't realize it, but for us it was.
When you're addicted to nicotine, anything will do.
Yeah, we have one more. I'm going to do another back-to-back in their own words here.
Terrific.
It explains a lot about his childhood and kind of maybe how he is later on.
Right.
A little hardened type of guy. In their own words on his childhood, quote, "It was very tough then, especially in the early years. The country had been stripped by the Nazis. Even toward the end, around 1945, it was still difficult. They'd airlift food and cigarettes and supplies, but most of all, it was snapped up and went on the black market.
Wow.
Shit's rugged over there, man. This is
Relief Aid rice is going on the black market.
It's going on the black market, and he's trading cigarettes for it. And I like how he said they'd airlift in food and cigarettes and supplies. He's very concerned with cigarettes.
Those cigarettes are a big deal.
If you don't smoke, you wouldn't understand, but God damn it, these cigarettes.
The 40s were smoking. There was smoke everywhere.
I can picture him, he's 7 years old, he's got a fedora on, smoking a cigarette, sport coat. I'm telling you. He grows up in Holland, and finally in 1956, he wasn't even 17 yet when they actually came here. He moves to the U.S. His dad was a doctor in Holland, and before the war, I guess, and all that, and then things kind of fell apart. And so he came over here to further his education, because I think the education.
Good call.
Yeah, the college systems weren't doing too well after they were, destroyed
blown
and
apart.
blown up,
Right.
and that sort of
essentially
thing.
Aleppo of the 40s.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he moves over here. This is great. It's 1956. He comes over as a teenager in the mid-50s, which is, a crazy time, American graffiti time.
The 57 Chevy's about to hit the market and change the world.
And he's going, holy shit, I'm from a place where you pick up cigarette butts to get food scraps. And these guys have, tail fins. This is awesome.
And cigarettes rolled in their sleeves.
Rolled in their sleeves. You go up and a pretty girl on roller skates brings you a hamburger. What kind of country is this? A pretty girl. You don't
a hamburger and a malt? Are you shitting me?
You don't have to pick anything up off the ground to barter with her for. You just give them some paper and they give you. It's insane over here. He changes his name from Hans Johann Paul, which isn't real cool for an American 50s kid.
Kind of a nerdy name now.
Yeah, no girl's like, I'm going to go study with Hans Johann. It wasn't happening then. Changes his name to John Lee Paul. Oh. Because I feel like he thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Lee Lewis. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to be John Lee Paul. Yeah.
He sees Lee on the back of some dude's jeans and he's like, that's a kick-ass name.
He's like, fuck it. I could be any name I want over there.
Lee it is.
But he's still got an accent. He's still got a funny-ass Dutch. Sorry to the Dutch, but your fucking accent when you speak English is hilarious. It's the best accent of anyone speaking English. It's the funniest by far.
Sebring, of course, is the longest-running international road race in the United States.
Yeah, he probably grew up Pompadour.
Yeah.
Everything. He's like, I'm fucking John Lee Paul, buddy. He's playing the piano. He's learning.
Lighting shit on fire.
Oh, loving it, man. So he starts in the late 50s in America working as a dishwasher. 60 cents an hour he's making back then.
That's better than cigarette butts.
It's better than cigarette butts, but still not terrific. Also would do like janitorial work, any menial job he could find to scrape together as much money as he could.
He's an immigrant.
And he has a plan. He has a plan to be a legitimate success, and this shit is impressive. He came from war-torn shithole, and any place that was like occupied for. My grandmother's from Italy, and she lived in Italy. She came into America in 1947, so she lived through the whole Nazi occupation in Italy. So anybody that lives through that shit, I know they're a different kind of rugged. Yeah, they're just a different kind. They're a little. They're
survivors.
They're survivors. They're a little harsher than most. Also,
I can imagine.
They're tough.
They got some predisposed ideas and. Is that it?
They lived under a Nazi regime. Yeah. So they've had, they're a little scarred, some of these people. So my grandmother.
They judge is the word.
Yeah, she's great, but she's crazy as fuck. So, and we're going to get into him. He's crazy as fuck, not so great. But in 1960, he marries a woman named Joyce, an American girl, apparently. Apparently she's a kind of a dull, cold woman. Not that exciting, but he's like, hey, I'm here. I got a wife.
That's vagina.
They moved to Muncie, Indiana.
Oh.
You can't get... He's John Lee Paul. He changes his name to, marries some boring broad named Joyce and moves to Indiana. He's a fucking American, this guy. Hands down. He is a goddamn American.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, at this point, forget about it. His son, John Lee Paul Jr., a junior, watch out for him.
You betcha.
He's going to race some cars, too, and he's going to be a junior athlete. You think he'll have some legal problems?
Fucking A, he will.
He will. He's going to have a couple. I'll just give you some, I'll give that to you right now. He's going to have some problems. But unfortunately for him, they're all based on his father, because his father's the asshole.
That makes sense.
The senior's the asshole here. He's born February 19th, 1960. So they have a son. I don't know if he knocked her up and got married, but that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's fast.
That's a pretty fast gestation period. I'm going to say it was the 60s. They were like, she's getting big. You better marry her, I think, at that point. Now, he's somehow, back then, you could go to college for very little money, especially at a state university if you were a resident of a state.
Student loans weren't a necessity.
No, you could go for very little money. He attends Ball State University.
Oh, no shit.
In Muncie. Goes to college. He graduates. He does so well. Jimmy, this is a first of any of our people. We've had smart guys on this, but nobody that actually applied it to this level.
Right.
He does so well that he earns himself a scholarship to get a master's degree.
What?
Where do you think he earns it from, Jimmy? You think it's, Indiana State or something? No. Fucking Harvard.
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 The man got into an Ivy League school.
And I don't care where
after crossing an ocean from war-torn Holland, comes to America, settles down, starts raising a family, goes to college, and gets a scholarship to go get a master's degree at Harvard.
It's amazing. He's a fucking genius, this guy. He's a serious...
There's no reason to fuck up.
He is a straight-up genius, this man.
Unbelievable.
Like a business, a financial, a
I wish
mathematical...
I had that kind of brain.
He's a wizard, this guy. And obviously, he's some immigrant janitor, a dishwasher who's getting into Harvard now. It's incredible, though.
Hilarious.
He does it. He pulls it off. He earns a master's in business.
Wow.
From Harvard.
From Harvard.
From Harvard.
He's got that shit hanging on his wall.
At that point, he walks out. He can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
He's got a master's from Harvard back then, especially.
Apply for CEO right now.
You are the shit. So after graduating, he gets a job with a company called Putnam Management. And this is in Boston, which Harvard was there, so that makes sense. They're a mutual fund management firm. So this is kind of the beginnings of the mutual fund.
Mutual funds in the 60s.
Yeah, I did some research, and I'm researching mutual funds.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, was that boring? But I don't have to bore you guys with it.
As boring as his wife.
Let's just say that was kind of the beginning of mutual funds being big, and you don't have to know anymore.
He likes boring shit.
He likes boring. He likes to make money. He's you know what he is? He's studious. He buckles down.
Yep.
He does his shit. That's the thing. I got to go to Ball State. I got to be married to this fucking boring broad named Joyce and bang her missionary style once a week. Fine. I'll do it. I'll get my diploma and I'll move on. I think that's what he is. He's see goal, get goal. That's what he's all about. And he continues that through his life. He's a genius, basically. Within a year, he is co-manager of their main fund. He escalates to that. He's that smart. Within 6 years, he takes this is in the late 60s, he takes this fund from a $600 million fund to a $4 billion fund under his supervision.
In the 60s.
In the late 60s. So that's big money in the 60s.
That's boatloads of cash.
That's insanity. I mean, we're talking, this is a major thing that people, it's like a 401k and everything else. It's hard to explain.
It's like the gross domestic product
of
Holland.
That's pretty much, yes. He was smart because he invested in up-and-coming companies and was smart about it. He invested in Mattel before they were shit. The toy company that made fucking He-Man and everything else under the sun in the 80s. Yeah. Probably, I think they do.
I believe they make Hot Wheels.
Yeah, they do. They make Hot Wheels. So yeah, it's
that's a big deal.
They're a big toy company, and he got on board when they were relatively new. Also, Kentucky Fried Chicken, which was not a big company back in the 60s. Yeah. It was regional, and they were trying to go national. And
him and John Wayne Gacy got in it.
Exactly. Well,
ground floor.
Different levels. Yeah. he got in a money level. Yeah, Gacy was actually slinging the
Gacy's actually
chicken.
Frying the goddamn chicken and putting those 13 original herbs and spices together.
I don't think Johann was doing that shit ever. He was just... but anyway, he made himself a millionaire before the age of 30. So think about that, guys. That coming from nowhere, like you said, and he's comes to this country and completely legitimately through hard work and brains and just heart, he gets himself to this level. To
just actual desire.
Desire and the ability to.
And he's now a millionaire.
And he's a millionaire.
Good old Joyce sticking it out.
Got a nice family. He's got a boring wife and a nice kid. Everything's going well for him.
And a bunch of money.
Bunch of money on making money, he says in their own words. Old John Paul Sr. quote, "I was one of the first to get involved with mutual funds. Within just a few years, I made a lot of my clients very wealthy. I guess I did pretty well for myself too."
I would say so.
And he laughed. So
he laughed.
Yeah, what do you think? He was probably sitting on a fucking yacht at the time.
Sitting on a fucking concrete bed.
Now, he was always kind of a fan afar, always looked afar at racing, Grand Prix racing, that sort of thing, the European style racing.
Open wheel racing.
Yeah, he was always into that sort of thing and just kind of liked it. So during the 60s, while he was in his high pressure job and he was also, on Wall Street investing, doing a lot of shit, he buys a 64 Corvette to have some fun with.
May as well.
Blow off some
Live a little
steam.
bit of reckless here and there.
Apparently he would go out in the parking lot of the building there and just tear ass around at night when I was there and just practice drifting and shit. And literally he was doing crazy shit with a Corvette. Yeah, people were like, wow, he's insane. He's a crazy person. But he had a plan again. Because in 1970, he buys a Dodge Challenger from a guy named Sam Posey.
70 Challenger's a badass
It's
car.
a badass car.
Shit, yeah.
It's not a 70 Challenger.
Okay.
It's a Challenger
Like a
that
68 or
had
69.
been racing, for a couple of years. And it's modified for racing.
Yeah.
And it's from a racer named Sam Posey. He was a racer back then and was a TV analyst for ABC in the U.S. here in the States.
I thought the name sounded familiar.
For a long time. Yes, he's a redneck.
I paid attention to that horse shit in the late 80s, early 90s. My parents would take me to all those. I know who Don Prudhomme is, for fuck's sake.
Okay, so
nobody
you're
knows
gonna
who
know
that
a few of
I know
these
who
guys.
John Force is. Nobody knows who that is.
Sam Posey, here he is. So John starts racing using this car. He wins races in 1970. He wins at Bridgehampton and Lime Rock using this car. So it was a great car too, from what I understand. But I mean, he's a rookie racer, and he's just good at everything.
Is he running pro street or is he running like circle track?
It's like circle track because this is like it looks like a stock car.
Okay.
It's not like
So it's like a NASCAR
wheel.
car.
Yeah, they're just doing whatever. So on racing here, we have another in their own words. He doesn't speak a ton, but he speaks in bursts about certain things.
Yeah.
So here we go here. In their own words, this is on the whole racing thing. Quote, growing up in Europe, you always heard about the Grand Prix drivers.
Yeah.
Like a kid in this country hears about baseball players. I'd always been interested in racing.
Jesus.
So this has been his
This is his passion. His underlying. I'll fuck this boring bitch just to get to the racing.
Made millions. I'll do a race now. So now he's racing. He's starting to feel it a little bit. He's
got a little bite.
He's feeling the Lee in his name a little bit right now. He's dancing on the piano. He's fucking his 14-year-old cousin. Not literally with the cousin. I don't know, maybe the piano, but he's feeling the Lee a little too much right now.
Did he take Lee from the General Lee?
I don't know. I honestly think he came over, heard Great Balls of Fire and said Jerry Lee Lewis, John Lee Paul.
That's it.
That's cool. That'll get me chicks. I really think that's what he did.
That's hillbilly. Let's run with it.
If I ever, well, never mind. We'll get to him in a minute. Late at the end of this, I'm going to say what I'd like to say to him if we ever find him, and this is what it is. But he divorces his wife.
Good for him.
Divorces all boring Joyce in 71.
Yeah.
Had no more interest. John Jr. stays with the mother for now.
I feel like he got his first blowjob at the track and was like, I'm not staying with this bitch.
Yeah, I feel like he ran won 2 races, had a couple of, pudgy, drunken redneck race groupies in the 70s. I can't imagine it was high
Grabbed
quality.
a couple by the pussy.
Now you probably, like Donald Trump. Now you probably get quality at the racetrack, I would imagine. There's not quality too, but there's probably quality
at
also.
NASCAR, there's some quality.
1970 at Lime Rock, I can't imagine the quality was so great. But still, it was there.
Yeah.
They were into it, so good for him. He starts to unravel a little bit too. Like he starts pulling out of Wall Street because the market changes and it just turns into kind of a shitty market at this point in the late 60s, early 70s. So he kind of pulls out of that. He's just starting to act funny, divorces his wife, just starting to kind of have a midlife crisis here a little early, basically. He's a difficult guy to deal with also. Opinionated, strong-willed, pain in the ass. Everybody was afraid of him. Everybody was like fucking, he was just not a guy you'd want to deal with if you had to deal with someone.
Yeah, a guy like that's so self-centered and done everything on his own. He needs nobody to live his life.
No.
So everybody's disposable to him. So he's not going to have any relationships that are going to last, that are going to matter, unless there's a benefit for him in it.
He's so single-minded with what he's doing that he'll just plow anything over to get his son. We'll talk about it. 1972 now. He quits his job, quits everything he's doing, sells everything he owns, including his race cars. Everything, quits the job on Wall Street, mutual fund, all this shit. He buys a sailboat.
What?
Gets a goddamn sailboat.
Who the fuck does he think he is?
Lost his mind.
Yeah.
Okay, lost his goddamn mind. We'll find out where he went in a minute here, but he takes off. He doesn't come back till 1974 when he returns.
Where's his kid?
With the mother. He just
my
took
God.
off. He doesn't care. It's fun. Hey, he grew up with picking cigarette butts off the ground. This kid will be fine. He's got a house.
Right.
That's the way he's looking at it. Like, the
Mom's
Nazis
getting
aren't
out
bombing him.
right.
Who cares? Fuck this kid. I think that's how he's looking at it. He's not hiding in a fucking attic. It's fine. We're all good.
He'll do okay.
He'll do fine. So he comes home and starts to try to build a racing team. Now, I mean,
like a track racing team or a sailboat racing team?
No, a car racing team again here. John Jr. comes and lives with him, I think, because the mother was so boring. She's just like, this Joyce lady's boring me, Dad. I can't take it anymore with her.
He calls her Joyce.
This Joyce, man. Mom
That's your mother.
Excited.
Call her that. No,
Joyce is exactly perfect for her. So we find out later on where he was for 2 years, and
Oh my God.
he sounds like it was just the best time ever. Just, I'm sure the kid didn't think
Yeah.
that or anything, but he says in their own words, quote, "I bought this sailboat and set to sea alone. I sailed to Europe twice. I saw the old country for the first time since I left, and it made me glad to be an American. I finally settled in the Caribbean and then moved to Cape Canaveral, Florida, and got into real estate."
My goodness.
So, like, yeah, he just said, "Oh, I'm going to go have an adventure now." I mean, just...
Wouldn't that be great?
not really.
I mean, alone
I
would
can't
suck.
I can't take that. I'd lose my fucking mind. I need my...
Sailing, though, would suck dick.
Yeah,
That'd
that
be
would suck.
horrible.
But the freedom of doing it, if that's what you're into,
Yeah.
whatever your version of sailing is,
Sailing,
great.
though, you're not moving that fast.
just going
Yeah.
to Europe. To Europe. Like,
Why?
that's like what people used to have to do, and they didn't like it.
Right.
You know, they were wishing there was a better way to do it. And he's like,
When you go to Europe, you're coming back
Yeah.
from somewhere.
this is the 70s. He
Right.
could have gone on a fucking jet.
Right.
Flown over there, had a nice meal, been able to smoke right there on the plane. It would have been fine.
But settling in the Caribbean, too, would be that'd be balls out. That's it.
Yeah. So at night now, he's going to start funding a race team now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "You sold everything, got a sailboat. Where's this money coming from?" John Jr. makes a discovery in about 1975 that he says he went in the garage to feed the dog. That's where the dog food was, and found just tons of weed.
That's why you went to the Caribbean.
Bales and
Yeah.
bales and bales and bales of weed. And he was like, "Oh, this is what's going on."
That's what Dad's doing.
Absolutely. So he had been bringing weed back and forth,
Yeah.
just back, not really forth,
Right.
from the Caribbean into
Right.
the States, into Louisiana and Florida,
Yeah.
and funding what he needed to do.
That's what Dad's doing now.
So,
real estate,
yeah.
my ass.
That's the thing. And I got into real estate. You know.
Maybe he bought real estate on the beach so that he could just sail his boat right up to that. It's real estate.
If you put a bale of weed on the ground and stand on it, it's sort of real estate. So I call that real estate.
kind of own
Like,
that.
it's ridiculous. That's your land now.
Yeah.
It's real estate. You pick it up, you take it with you. It's always yours. Wherever you
go.
want to be. Weed, the new land. It's fucking unreal, man. So in 1975, he's 15, 16 years old here in 75, 76. John Sr. asks John Jr. if he would help him out with the operation.
Oh, no.
This is where it's like, "Hey, asshole,
You're
that's
a
your
dad.
kid.
Yeah.
That's protect your kid.
Right.
This is worse than Frost at this point. At least Frost wasn't making them commit other crimes. For fuck's sake. So John Jr., they asked him here, what's the deal with that later on? How the hell, what happened? And John Jr. says, quote, "He asked me if I would help him unload about a year after I found the initial stash there. Did I resent that? I love my father. He's my dad. I think he's a very intelligent man and could have done it another way. I resent that." In other words, he's like, he made millions of dollars. He knows how to make millions of dollars. He didn't have to have his kid help him smuggle
Right.
weed. We're not fucking immigrants.
Lots of weed.
Lots of weed happens
At
to him later.
16 years old, he's asking him to unload.
He's got no choice.
Yeah, but at 16, he's already made a criminal out of the kid.
No, not senior. Junior has no choice. If
Yeah.
you're 16 and you live with your dad,
Yeah.
and your dad's, especially if your dad's like this immigrant who went to Harvard and was a millionaire, he's like a fucking god, and he tells you, "You're going to help me unload weed," you'd be like, "I guess I'm going to help him unload
That's
weed."
what I do now.
You'd have no choice in the matter. You're not old enough to render. If that's one of your friends, maybe you could be like, "I don't think so." But if it's your dad, you're like, "I guess it's okay.
That's
My
a
dad
family
told me to."
business.
He told me to. Shit. I mean, so anyway, he starts the race company here, John Paul Sr., called JPL Racing Inc. This is in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That company starts. They moved to Lawrenceville, Georgia a couple of years later, but that's where the company starts.
Okay.
Everyone's scared of John Sr.
Yeah.
Everyone is
Yeah.
petrified of him, and not just his kid, and not just people who work for him. Everyone that works for him is terrified. They all work overtime. They don't complain. They do whatever he asks. He runs the shit with an iron fist. He yells at his kid as much as he yells at anybody. His kid has to answer "yes, sir" and all that shit.
Oh, no.
No, okay, Dad. None of
Yeah.
that shit. You're in the shop. It's whatever. And John Paul Jr. is he's learning about engines. He's being their gopher. He's just a general shop bitch at this
Yeah.
point, just running around doing anything he can. He's just the gopher and anything, trying to learn the business because he's very into racing.
Yeah.
'Cause what the hell? That's the family business. That and weed.
Yeah.
He was more into racing than weed, luckily for him. Everyone's scared. He's abusive to all these people. John Jr. says about him, quote, "My father can be very intimidating." And he's so intimidating, we'll hear, that basically everyone was terrified of him. There's a race official. These are the people who run the race and whatever in Lawrenceville, Georgia, that talked about an incident when John Sr. walked into their racing office
Yeah.
for the, the officials of the Lawrenceville Racing, whatever, and hurled a full briefcase across the room. So it didn't look where he was going, just flung it across the room, said it, quote, if it had hit his secretary, it would have taken their head off.
Jesus.
Then the next quote about
Reckless
him,
as fuck.
what he said about him is great, because he said he dealt with him for years, and cut to the chase, he says, and I quote, he's the most terrifying man I have ever met. So that explains a lot. If some race official says he's the most terrifying man I've ever met, that says a lot. He's a grown man.
Right.
That's
a grown man that's governing the body that the man operates under.
And all these racers are lunatics back then. They're all maniacs and outlaws and drug smugglers.
So
in
this
the 70s.
guy's willing to kill you like Odd Job.
Oh, he'll just walk in. He just has he's a lunatic. He's crazy. He was known on the circuit, and this is not a nickname that's given to him in kindness, as, quote, the old pirate.
Oh, shit.
Because he's on the boat, and he's a crazy person. And later on, that nickname is going to come to fruition in such a shitty way. Such a shitty way. But guys, he is the pirate. Well, trust me. You think this is just a guy who's smuggling some weed, and that's going to be what's wrong with him, right? Just a little drug smuggling?
That's not worthy of a crime and sports episode.
Even goddamn close. That is just, and
it's gonna get into something
so
deep.
If you were going to the Grand Canyon, you'd take this. It's not just a steep incline. You don't shoot right down it. It's a long.
There's a couple of.
The road. It looks like it's flat as you're going down. That's what we're doing now. We're walking in it, and we're like, oh, this isn't that bad. And we're about to go, holy shit, we are way down there.
You're starting to feel it. Starting to feel the burn on the front of your thighs.
Yeah, this is going to happen here. 1978, John Jr. graduates from high school, really dives headfirst into the racing team and starts doing everything, wants to learn about driving also. The father buys him an old Formula Ford to fuck around with and drive and things like that, and sends him to Skip Barber Racing School to learn how to drive.
All right. That sounds like they know what they're doing.
That's the real racing school that you would send your kid to if you were a lunatic that wanted to teach your kid to be a fucking race car driver. He earns a rating from the teacher of, quote, hopeless, as he goes there, which is not fitting. And actually, he turns into a hell of a driver. So that school might.
That teacher didn't know shit.
That teacher didn't know jack shit. At the time, he had no experience because his dad wouldn't let him drive. He just gave him an old car and said, "Go drive that around a parking lot like I did." Asshole.
Yeah.
1978, John Paul Sr., our main guy here, he wins the FIA World Endurance Drivers Championship. He's big on these endurance races.
Really?
These 24-hour races, the 24 hours of Le Mans, the 24 hours of Daytona. These races he's big in, and he wins his first in 78. And so,
how long was it, did it say?
I think this is a 24-hour race.
Okay.
Another 24-hour. And it's him and two other people or whatever. But it's his car, it's his deal, and he's
he won.
And he's one of the drivers, too. So he's all about this shit. He's a bad man. And this gets him some notoriety, too. Now they're taking notice of him in the racing world as well as,
Endurance races are crazy because
they are.
It's just, it beats you to death. You're try driving to just pick a state and go there.
Yeah.
And then try just doing it straight.
And the 24-hour races, too, they talk about it, and they're like, you're up for 24 hours. That's a long time to be up, to be, like, alert and driving.
Right.
And they were asking Junior later on, do you sleep during that? And he goes, well, you can technically, but you can't sleep because you're so concerned with what's going on in the race.
Right.
You can't get out of a race car and have that much adrenaline going. You're just driving 200 miles an hour.
Right.
And you're going to go take a nap for a while and not worry about what position you're in or what happened, or if you wake up, your car could have crashed and the race could be over and you missed the whole thing.
You're gonna set an alarm clock?
Yeah, he said so you try, but you can't sleep at all, and you're just up the whole time. It's just all adrenaline, which I would imagine. But after
that's
a while,
all the race is. It's
after a while, I don't know how even 200 miles an hour would be boring. After like hour 18, you'd be like, "This is I'm just gonna jerk it into the wall. I can't take it anymore." So at least fire's exciting at this point. I don't care anymore. So January 10th, 1979. Everything's going well up to now. He won his race here. The senior's winning the endurance championship. Junior's starting to get into it. He's hopeless, but he's trying.
Right.
We have an interesting night. Louisiana. We're in Louisiana on the banks, in the
marsh.
The bayou, in the marsh. Paul Jr. and a man named Christopher Schill, who I believe is one of Paul Jr.'s friends, I think, are stopped by customs agents as they're loading equipment onto a pickup truck in the dark on the bank of a canal.
Why would you be doing that?
So that's suspicious behavior, especially for just some 19-year-old kids hanging out. They're like, what are you doing? During questioning, the customs agent smelled weed on the boys, obviously, because
they dealing weed.
Because they're dealing weed.
Right.
They find Paul Sr. on his boat nearby. He's on a 42-foot boat called the Lady Royale.
Wow.
On the boat, they find remnants of weed and $10,000 in cash. So they're like, "Where's the weed?" They look around. Luckily for them, nearby, there's a rented truck nearby that has 1,565 pounds of weed in it.
Oh my God.
That is 710 kilograms for our European friends.
Wow.
Yeah, that's no shit right there. That's a lot of weed they find.
And they got caught with it.
They got caught with, they found, you're here with the equipment, here's the boat, the truck's right there.
You all smell like it, there it is.
Doesn't take a genius to put this operation
Doesn't
together.
take a Harvard-educated person to figure that out.
Absolutely not. But none of them haven't had any records. This guy's a famous racer. He's got a Harvard diploma. He's got a lot of money. They're like, "What are you doing, idiot?"
Right.
Little slap on the wrist. That's it. All three of them, later on in the year, they plead guilty to marijuana possession, so they don't even get them with an intent.
Jesus.
They were bringing in 1,500 pounds of weed in a fucking U-Haul truck just to smoke, I guess, to have a party.
People exaggerate when
That's
they
a
say
lot of weed.
when they say a ton of something. This was nearly a ton of weed.
This is 3/4 of a ton of weed.
Right.
Yeah, this is
That's
the
a
size of a
shitload of
pickup
weed.
truck in the 80s. It's that weight. That's what we're talking about. 3/4 ton.
Unbelievable.
Tiny, yeah, it's ridiculous. I know that's what it carries, but still. Anyway, it's ridiculous how much weed this is, but they give him that, no
Insane.
problem. And John Jr. says of all this later on, he says that basically all he did the whole time was it was his job. They'd get to the shore. He didn't do the boat shit. He said they'd get to the shore, they'd unload to a truck, and he would take it from the shore in a truck to somewhere safe and drop it off. That's all he ever did.
it.
That was his job.
He just drove.
They just needed a guy who was trustworthy enough to drive from here to here and not steal shit.
And your son
basically.
is the one to do it.
Your son's the one to do it. And I guess after this, he says, and everybody says, I don't know how true it is, but I'm pretty sure it's true. He says this was it for him. He never fucking went near it again. Told his father he's not doing anything like this again. He wants to be. He wants to be a race car driver.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be a drug dealer. He doesn't want to be a
straight and
drug
narrow.
trafficker. Unfortunately, though, to have a race team, someone's got to traffic something, basically.
Somebody's got to make some money around here.
Exactly. His father keeps going with what he's doing and gets into worse. But yeah, so all three of them received 3 years probation and $32,500 fines. So I mean, slap on the wrist.
You can afford it.
He can afford the fine. That's not a big deal. Who cares? You know what I mean? Everything's fine. 1980, he's right back out on the track. He wins the FIA Endurance Drivers Championship again.
Wow.
So I mean, that's his race.
He's running enduros.
He's running the Endurance. Now, May 26th. Okay. This is interesting. Now.
I love
Let's
those.
get into this here. Okay. May 26th, 1980. He gets married at the racetrack. And we'll get into how he found this girl here.
So trashy.
Gets married at the Lime Rock Park infield, in the infield of the racetrack track at the Coca-Cola 400 race. That is the white trashiest way you could fucking possibly get married ever.
They threw
We gonna get married on the infield at the Coca-Cola 400. That's
on
right.
the logo.
You know, right there on the center, buddy. You ain't gonna believe it.
I'm gonna kiss you right on a Coca-Cola logo.
Woohoo, I'll tell you, boy.
They threw rubber flakes at him off the tires.
Ugh, what a fucking mess.
Ugh.
The girl he marries
Was so trashy.
well-
she's covered in soot.
She was originally white trash, this broad, and she got herself out of white trashdom. She grew up in white trashdom.
Yeah.
Got out of white
She's
trashdom.
got two names, doesn't she?
No. Became a stewardess in 1965 for Delta Airlines, which actually in the 60s, if you were a stewardess, that wasn't like now where you're just like a 50-year-old lady that feeds you peanuts. I know they do more and they have to do all the safety stuff. I get that. But it wasn't just like a grumpy woman who's doing all the TSA checkpoints. It's not that. This was like you had to be like attractive and perky and
Beautiful, yeah.
and a good customer service, and it was ridiculous.
Those Pan Am
It was
girls are a
silly.
good definition
That's what I
of
mean.
what they
It was silly what they would make. You had to be like some sort of
So
model to be.
chipper.
It was so stupid. But anyway, she was one of these people. She was a flight attendant from 65 to 80.
Wow.
She's still a flight attendant at this point when she meets him. They meet when her husband, Donald, who she'd been married to since the late 60s, was a race fan, took her to the racetrack and introduced old Chalice to John Paul Sr.
To her new husband.
He says, I'll take you for a ride in the car around the track. And she said she fell in love right there.
Finger you all the way around. Grab you right by the pussy.
The fact that he could keep it on the road and wasn't crashing and could do all this cool stuff. He was a man, and
wow.
She was into it.
What did Donald do? Do we know?
Donald went home and did nothing because basically
Donald went home and left her to her new husband.
He kept on her after this meeting. He kept trying to get at her and romancing her, and eventually she leaves her husband for him, and they get married like within 2 months of this. They get married on the infield.
That is so
she's like,
trashy.
fuck it, I don't care. John Jr. was his best man at the wedding.
Yeah.
So that's nice here. This girl too, Chalice Paul.
She's like, wait, y'all don't brush y'all's teeth?
No, we'll
I
call her
love
Chalice.
this. This sounds great.
This is great. I could live like this.
Y'all don't brush your teeth? In the morning even?
Now, she claimed they were traveling around and then they had to go to France shortly after they get married. This was like their honeymoon, even though he was going over to race. It was a work trip. It was still, they're in France together alone. She says the first night over there, he goes out and just disappears. And she talks to one of his buddies.
He just got married and he's like, listen.
It's their honeymoon, basically. And he's like, I got shit to do.
Here's some strawberries and some champagne and a warm bath. See you around.
He goes out and hangs out with another chick.
What?
He goes out and hangs out with another chick, and she knew it was another woman. She's like, what's going on? Talked to one of his buddies there, the race buddies, and this guy tells on him, gives it up right away. Says,
what a dickhole.
He's with this one chick. She's a race groupie, and she sells some coke on the side, too. So, small-time cocaine dealing race groupie. Sounds like a fun night for old John Paul Sr.
Whoever that buddy is that ratted him out is a dickhole.
Well, yeah, but this poor woman. Good God.
John Paul's no fucking cupcake. But that's a dick thing to do to your friend.
Ladies out there, if you go to France with your husband and it's basically your honeymoon and he spends the first night with a groupie cocaine dealer snorting coke off her ass, I'm going to give you advice right now and take it. If this has just happened to you in the last 48 hours or so, leave now.
It's over.
Shit is going to go bad. And let's find out what happens to Chalice to know exactly how bad.
How funny is that, though, that his buddy, I feel like his buddy was like, she left her husband for this dick, and he's out doing blow with some race groupie. If I tell her how bad this is, maybe she'll leave with me.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Who knows? By 81, they're completely getting broken apart here. By 81. They have a huge fight. She gets fired from Delta Airlines when they have a giant fight at the Bermuda airport where he freaks out and throws shit and yells and screams in the airport. And they basically said, we can't use you anymore.
Yeah.
You're bringing in psychopaths.
Your husband's
with you.
a lunatic. Please don't come back
now. So she takes off. He's in Florida still. She moves to Georgia at this point. She moves to Georgia and rents a condo or something out there. She's becomes an aspiring actress. Burt Reynolds filmed a movie there. She got a role as an extra there. She's just trying to stick on to do something here.
Just floating in the breeze.
They're separated, and now John comes to visit her in early 81, and says that he's sorry that he said he wanted a divorce. Now he wants to get back together. Blah 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 blah. Says come to Florida. We'll have a nice second honeymoon, me and you.
Oh.
Second honeymoon, let's do it.
Cohort didn't work out?
We're gonna start the romance from the beginning. It's gonna be beautiful. Let's all do this, right? Sounds good for this girl. She's like, I left my husband for this fucking guy. I'd like to make it work, I'm sure.
My life sucks right now.
I got
lost
fired.
My job.
Yeah, I'm doing extra work.
Yeah.
I'm going, ooh, the craft service table looks nice today, and that's the highlight of my day.
There's nice pineapple.
I got problems.
Right.
Yeah, I got issues here. I'm taking candy home with me from it. That's how sad things are. So she agrees to do this.
My dinner last night was mince.
It was mince. She agrees to go. Okay, so summer of 81, she goes down there to try to reunite, whatever.
Rekindle.
Yeah. They're off Key West because he's got a big boat that they're hanging out on. She disappears in the summer of 81. She's gone.
What?
Gone. That's it. Gone.
There's no story?
He says, I don't know where she went. That's his story.
Because she had a lot to go to.
His story is, I don't know.
She just went away.
I don't know if she left. Maybe she fell off the boat. She took off. I don't fucking know.
She found a nice guy in Key West.
Literally, it's like, I don't know. That's his story. And the cops are like,
okay.
What about this? I don't know. And they have nothing to go on. She's not there. He's like, I don't know. She fucking left. Or maybe she fell in the ocean. I have no idea. I didn't see anything, basically. So they don't know what to do here. They're like, what do we do? there's no real investigation because they don't even know what happened to her.
There's no body.
She
She's
could
an
have just
adult.
took off.
She can just leave.
That's the thing. Who knows? Maybe she moved to Monaco, for Christ's sake. What do we know where the hell this lady went? He just, when the family talks to him, he just bullies them into, and he tells them all different stories and just bullies them into saying, I don't know where the hell she is. And they're like, I guess she took off.
Wow.
Her family was messed up, too. She had a messed up family. A lot of her brothers and sisters had legal problems, shit like that. So her family wasn't real on the ball. And this was some rich guy going, I don't know, she disappeared. And they were like, I guess she disappeared. He probably gave him 10 grand or something, and they shut the fuck up.
You know what this is, though? This sounds very similar to every other episode that this predator...
He is a silver-haired middle-aged white man.
But this predator preyed on somebody that was weak, that had nothing and needed somebody. Well, I mean, she had a marriage, but she clearly wasn't happy.
No.
She wanted excitement in her life.
And
she was damaged, and he saw it and fucking went after her. He got her.
And he goes after damaged people more.
And wherever she is...
Now, this seems shady, right? His wife's...
Super shady.
His wife's gone, new wife. And you'd imagine, like, if he cared, he would look for her, things like that. Yeah. Rather than doing that, in late 81, early 82, he goes off to Haiti to obtain a quickie divorce in Haiti.
What?
Because he couldn't get one here because he would need her consent because she's not dead yet.
Right.
So you got to divorce her. So he just goes to Haiti and gets a divorce because down there apparently you don't need to. Yeah. That's good enough. Yeah. A Haitian divorce you got. Anybody down there you don't want to marry, you don't want to be married anymore. Apparently a quick Haitian divorce will clean that right up, no problem. Yeah, she's still missing, so that's...
Who even knew that was an option?
Him.
Yeah.
Rich guys.
Yeah.
Rich guys with sailboats know that you can go to Haiti to divorce your drowned wife. Haiti. Yeah, you can drown your wife and then divorce her in some third world shithole. Perfect, before it's destroyed by some natural disaster. February 1st, 1982, he's back on the track. I mean, this has just happened. He just went and got a quickie divorce, back on the track. They've put together a Porsche 935 turbo. Now this is from a model they bought for $200. It was in 1969. He bought for $200 and fixed it up the way he. This is the thing. He makes everything to his specs.
Yeah.
Nothing is to.
It's got to fit him.
Well, yeah, because I guess there's an article later on talking about how great he is, saying how he takes a car that would be 300 grand off the line from Porsche, a factory race car that they build for him, and he makes them for 150, basically, because he does it himself.
Okay.
And his cars are better than theirs, basically, is what they're saying. So they say how smart he is. Anyway, they win the 24 Hours of Daytona race, which is a big deal. That's a huge deal in the racing world. In this particular racing world. This is in February of 82. They lead for almost the entire race. Their car is just way better than everybody else's. Wow. Just way better. The winning team receives $30,000 for winning this. The car costs $225 grand to build. That's why everyone in this sport was importing and smuggling drugs, because you had to, because it's not profitable, basically. Right. It's just, you can't do anything. No sponsors are that dumb either. Hey, let's take it in the neck for 200 grand a race. Nobody's doing that.
To win it.
Yeah, in the early 80s.
That's if you win.
Yeah, in the early 80s. So
that Porsche 935 is a badass car.
It's a badass car.
It's a gorgeous one.
I'll tell you where you can get a model of it later on.
All right.
Or already built, or one that you can put together yourself.
All right.
But they're online here. But anyway, we have it in their own words on winning the 24 Hours of Daytona, and the way they did it was kind of neat too. On that, in their own words, quote, "We played it cool. The car was babied all the way. It was never off the road, never in any real trouble. We were running a low compression motor, and I think we could have gone another 24 hours. It was just handed to us. We didn't plan to lead the race like we did, but all the other guys just broke."
Wow.
So I mean, they ran this race, and they ran it so well that they ended up winning by 11 laps.
What?
It was a record, and I'll tell you in a second that they could have won it by way more, and I'll tell you why they didn't.
Just not even close.
It's ridiculous. In this race, in the final half hour of the race, John Paul Sr. hops into the driver's seat to finish it off, because it was him. John Paul Jr. is also racing with him. They could become the first father-son team to win this race. And there's one other guy he's a nobody racer. I looked him up, doesn't matter. His name, fuck him. So anyway, he gets in a half hour because he wants to be at the end of the race. He wants to be in the driver's seat, John Paul Sr. And in their own words on that, he says also, too, that he almost crashed. This is another thing, too. A guy, he came really close to crashing into the wall. Somebody was trying to run him into the wall, basically, in the end there. Somebody was just, I guess, pissed and trying to take a cheap shot.
Right.
So we have an in their own words on this, which is hilarious. It's the most ironic thing. It's so funny because you're like, oh, really? But in their own words, quote, I had nowhere to go. This guy just kept moving me up and forcing me into the wall. I was fortunate to get away unscathed. It could have been worse, a lot worse. Can you believe somebody would do that? To have so little respect for the lives of drivers and for the sport?
Oh my God.
He's taken aback. Take that shit and take it back your ass.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Hey, where's your wife, sir?
Yeah, excuse me. Where's that wife that you just married 6 months ago, a year ago? Where's she at?
Why don't you care about her?
In the ocean in Key West somewhere.
Yeah, you got no respect for her.
No shit. Now, they could have won by more than 11 laps, but they were so far ahead that they stopped to wash the car and put fresh...
What the fuck?
To wash the car and put fresh decals on it so it would look nice for the cameras at the finish line.
Can you imagine?
That's how far ahead they were. They're like, just wash it, redecal it, just do the whole thing. I don't know. Just make it look pretty.
Can you imagine somebody doing that in NASCAR? Like just
hanging out on the side. And I picture him too, John Sr. smoking a cigarette, waiting for him. He almost done with his accent.
He's got his boy over there detailing the tires.
Chain smoke, picking up butts off the ground and smoking them, trading them for somebody's half-eaten hot dog up in the stand.
Our junior son.
Sorry, habits. I must trade cigarettes for...
If you don't smoke, you don't understand.
For food scrap, I don't know. Half of Winston for half of hot dog. So yeah, this is anyway. So he takes over last part of the race and finishes it up and becomes the hero. We have an in their own words on that.
Yeah.
In their own words, quote, I wanted to be the hero at the end. My son is going to get a chance to win a whole lot more races. I wanted to be there at the end on this one.
All right.
He's like, I want to, this might be my last shot of glory here. I'm getting older. We'll let my kid, he's fine later on. So by 1982, Paul Jr. and Sr. have the longest winning streak in the history of the Camel GT series at 5 consecutive races they
Camel,
won.
Sponsored by cigarettes?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Winston was all cigarette companies back then. So he was happy with that.
Yeah,
he
he's
might
fine
have
with
got free
that.
cigarettes. He didn't have to pick them up.
It's just interesting the time difference between now and then.
Well,
There's no fucking way they'd let Marlboro sponsor something
It
now.
was the Winston Cup till 5 years ago.
Yeah, sure was.
It was the Winston Cup till 5 years ago.
Now it's the Nextel Cup, right?
It was I think it was 6-7 years ago, maybe
That's
2010.
right.
So I mean, that was ingrained in that culture.
That's so crazy. I didn't even realize that.
Moonshine can't sponsor anything.
Yeah, no doubt.
They needed some sort of something. They had Skull, I know.
Yes.
And,
That was the car that Don Perdome drove, and he was a drag racer. He drove the Skull funny car too.
That is way too much redneckery for this episode. We'll end it right there. So right after this race, there is articles coming out left and right where he is the king of the world here. I mean, now he did also, they just ignored the fact that he also got busted importing a shitload of weed. That's just brushed under as a possession of marijuana. Nobody ever mentions it.
Yeah.
In all these articles in the early 80s, no one ever says who got busted for importing a shitload of weed 2 years ago.
Shitload. Almost
Never
a
comes
ton.
up. Never comes up. These reporters do not do their homework at all. There's an
has a missing wife.
that's the other thing. Where's your fucking wife? Listen to this article. Talk to another fucking reporter. Go, you know anything about this guy?
Right.
Does he have a dead wife or a drug trafficking?
How about St.
arrest?
Petersburg is on the west side of Florida. It's up near Tampa, near Clearwater area.
Yeah.
Right around that bend is a little place called Louisiana, where he was arrested for 1,500 pounds of weed.
I just figure it out. He's a famous guy. I'm sure that was in a newspaper somewhere in an archive. You could have found it like I did. So
unbelievable.
Anyway, the article's about how successful he is and how he puts the cars together at a lower cost. And he's a genius, this guy. Just a brilliant man.
Yeah.
So 1982.
With numbers, though.
With numbers.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you look at numbers,
And
the numbers
putting this
don't
shit
fucking
together.
add up.
No.
The championship money versus what it costs to be champion doesn't fucking equate.
Oh, by the way, guys, we've had so far, he's smuggled a bunch of weed. He's probably killed his wife, more than likely killed his wife. So, he's gotten his teenage son into drug trafficking with him.
He's not a great man.
Not even close. No. Not even, he hasn't even dipped his toe in the water. Literally, he put his finger in his mouth and held it up to see which way the wind was blowing.
See where the crime was coming from.
That's it. That's all he's done. That's it. He's not even dipped his finger in the crime pool yet.
Which way are the crime winds blowing?